Hi, everyone. Welcome to Create with Chris. I am Chris Hoy, and today I'm super excited to share how to use a palette knife and create a POW that you just won't believe. And I have here with me today Lindsay, and she is making sure everything runs seamlessly and smoothly. And she's going to be answering any questions, and she's reading all the comments. So, for those of you that have joined us before, welcome back and thank you for joining us. For those that are new, hopefully you'll learn some new tricks and techniques to make your painting life just a little more interesting and a little more fun. So I don't know, while we're waiting for everyone to jump on, we are right smack dab in the middle of where the eclipse went through yesterday. So we had an amazing view of the whole total solar eclipse. And because I think we're in a small area, we were not impacted with high traffic and all the there was a lot of warnings out about making sure you have enough gas and food, but everything around here went smoothly and went really well. We enjoyed it. Lindsay got to see it really well, and we got some great pictures.
Yeah.
So hopefully those of you that were in the eclipse belt were able to enjoy it as well. It's quite a phenomenon. I went to see my mom last night. She's 97. I said, Mom, did you see the eclipse? And she said, I have seen many eclipses in my life. So she unfortunately didn't get to see it, but she was not disappointed.
So we have Bonnie here from Oklahoma City.
Hi, Bonnie. Oh, Oklahoma City.
Sharon from down the road in Ohio. You know which Sharon that is.
Hi, Sharon.
We have Sue from Southern Ontario, Canada.
Wow. Is it warm up there, Sue, or you still have cold weather up there?
And we have Vera from Wisconsin.
Hi, Vera.
So let us know where you're joining us from. I can hear the birds chirping outside.
And it's funny. Yesterday when the eclipse went totally dark, the one thing I noticed, all of our mercury vapor lights came on and the birds quit singing, and it was really, really quiet. I was kind of amazed. The temperature dropped, and it just made you think about how powerful the sun is and what an effect it has on our lives. So it was kind of awe-inspiring. Really enjoyed it.
Hello, Margaret from Massachusetts.
Oh, East Coast. Hi, Margaret.
Carol from Bath, Ontario. Anne from Belton, Missouri. I can never say that right.
My dad always said misery.
That's what my dad said too, misery.
Yeah, that was always a chuckle. So, wow, we're getting them from all over the country.
Susan from Minnesota. Debbie Sears from Winter Haven, Florida. It's 79 degrees there.
Oh, wow. It will be here one of these days.
I think the computer said in the office 66. That's not bad.
Not bad in Ohio, but
yeah.
We're in that area where, 70 today, snow tomorrow kind of thing going on. I know a lot of you experience that. So that's just spring, a roller coaster ride up. Little glimpses of hope.
See, I can say it here. I'll say it. Next week, I'll be where it's 89.
Yeah.
So it's okay. I'll be in the Caribbean next week.
Yeah, she's kind of mentioned that more than
once. A few times, yeah.
Slipping on.
Sue says in Ontario it's 55.
That's not
That's
awful.
Not horrible.
Yeah.
We have is it Madeline from Colorado? Sharita says howdy from Tulsa.
Oh, love to get back there one of these days and see all those gals in Tulsa. I taught there a couple times, had a great time.
Mary from South Carolina, where she says it rain predicted all day. Mm. Lisa from Massachusetts, and Patty says the birth of spring.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Can be painful sometimes.
Oh, yeah, especially in Ohio.
And yesterday they predicted we were going to have heavy cloud coverage until about 5 o'clock. Mm-hmm. In our area, the eclipse was supposed to be at its peak at around 3. So I figured we may be able to get a glimpse of it, but it was gorgeous.
There wasn't a cloud in the sky. No. Yeah, it was beautiful.
The whole day long. I think it was up in the 70s, wasn't it?
It was like 72, I think. Yeah. Gloria says hello from North Louisiana.
Oh, hi, Gloria.
Linda O'Connell is with us. She says hello.
Linda. I'm still pushing you to use palette knife, Linda. You're going to love it. Okay, are we ready to get
Yeah,
started?
let's get started.
All right.
Flip the camera here.
Flip it down.
There we go.
Let's scoot that up. I love to use a palette knife, and I went to college for fine art, so I always had a palette knife in my hand. But when it came to acrylic painting, that was something that was never really utilized in decorative painting. And so I just kind of stayed away from it. This actually is one of my palette knives from college, so it's like 50 some years old. We won't, no,
You should have said that.
I shouldn't have said that. It's
20
like
years
20
old.
years old. Okay. And I do like the palette knives with a bend in them. Now I used to do oil paintings, so my palette knives were metal because you need a little bit of a heavier tool to kind of push that bulk of paint around. And so the heavier knives were really worked better for oils. This little dude is such a cute shape, but it's really firm. And you can see if I press on it, I don't get much of a bounce. This one is longer and it's thin, and I can really manipulate that. So this one gives me a lot more movement than the metal one. And I was kind of a paint snob. I always went to the metal tools because I felt like they were a little sturdier and a little, you get what you pay for kind of quality, better quality, and that type of thing. But when I started using acrylic paints, these were very awkward. And so I went with these super inexpensive plastic ones. I tell you, these are my favorites for acrylics. They are just super flexible. And we carry, this one's kind of the same as the long one in here, but it gives you a multitude of versatility. It's very versatile, I should say. It has a long length on it, has a sharper tip on it, and it has that spring that works really well. This package of inexpensive plastic tools, you can do some amazing things with these. We also have the metal tools, and they're a little more expensive, but you're going to be able to, they're sturdier, and you can use them for a lot of different mediums as well. If you're working with texture paste, these are great. I just think everybody should have several palette knives in their collection. And I use kind of toggle back and forth between what my purpose is between the plastic and the metal. What I'm going to show you today is with the plastic ones because I'm just mostly focusing on texture and getting some really cool effects with these. Now, one thing that I have learned with using the palette knife, I'm going to set these over here because they're noisy, is loading them with the correct consistency of paint. Less is just more. And I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to start with.
Bonnie wants to know, are the ones we stock offset as well?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, they have that angle to
Yes.
them. There's some straight ones in the package that, and
it's a mixed.
Yeah, it's a really nice variety because once you start playing with a palette knife, I think you're going to find out that you can do some really cool stuff. And I was so excited because the kind of texture and the results that I get from a palette knife, you cannot replicate with a brush. It just would take hours and hours and hours. This is a technique that you just don't overwork it. You just let it create itself, if that makes sense. It's just a very simple, don't overthink it, don't overwork it, don't overload it. It's just a minimal amount of paint. What's my motto?
A little bit of paint makes a big difference.
Absolutely. So I'm going to get just a smidget of paint on the bottom of my palette knife, and I'm rubbing it out. So I have can you see that, or is it blurry?
Hold your hand under it.
Okay.
There we go.
There we go. It's just a smidgen. I have no bulk at all whatsoever. If I take and just kind of scrape it down, can you see that beautiful texture? I'm going to move that up. We're working on getting our camera to focus a shorter distance. See that beautiful texture? You can't do that with a brush. Now, one thing about this using a palette knife is you have to have the mindset that you get what you get. If you don't like it, you can wipe it off. But I would suggest if you're using this to create texture, let it create what you want it to create. Now, if I overload it and get too much paint on it, this is what I'm going to get. That heavy smear. So you can go heavy and get a different effect. I can go on the edge and get straighter lines. If you want lines for pine trees, you can create trunks. So you can not only use the flat of the knife, but you can also use the edge, side edge. Now, one thing you want to be careful when you're using a palette knife, it needs to be clean and flat. So if you have paint residue left on that has dried from a prior painting session, you need to clean it off and make sure that your tools are nice and clean. This is what I use my metal one for. I can go in and I can scrape the bottom of dried paint off my palette knife if I should by chance happen to have left it on there and dry, and I can clean it up that way. So another thing that you can do is use this to get like a border edge, and I'm just going like a 45-degree angle, and I can get a really nice, cute little, almost perfect border on that. Does that show up, Lindsay?
Mm-hmm.
And see, I lowered the angle of my palette knife and it became thicker. So that the angle will also determine the width of the line. So if I want a wider one, I would just lean down a little bit more to get that wider line. Now, using a palette knife is no different than a brush. If you overload it and you try to get it to go too fast, too heavy, too soon, it's going to be a mess. Be patient, use just a little bit of paint. I like to go in and create just a little bit of a distress on the outer edge, and you can get some really cool effects with that as well. So I encourage you to just really play around with it and see what kind of results you can create. I just think it is so much fun. If I want to go in a smaller area, let me get just a little bit more paint. So I don't want a bunch. I just want to do a little bit. Just going to get the toe of it. And then I can create just a little smaller area. And you can manipulate it and pull it down. It's no different than brush painting. I'll keep going back to that. Once it starts to dry, just let it dry. If you don't like it, wipe over it. And all of this is very, very smooth. It doesn't create... You can go in and add a lot of texture, but we're just creating the look of texture. And paint has enough of a grain on it that it's going to grab and just leave that wonderful bit of texture.
Carol says that she watches all your videos and loves when you use the palette knife.
It's just like magical. Thank you, Carol.
And,
okay, question. Carol, have you tried it yet?
and Sue says, I once took a seminar with Cindy Ohama from Calgary, and we did an oil painting with palette knives, so the background of vase and all the flowers were done with a knife. It was quite a learning experience, I think is what she said. Susan says, I like the look on the edge of the board.
You'd be amazed at what you can create. And Susan, I encourage you to try that because it's like, oh my goodness, that is so cool. Now, I'm not sure about aqua on black, but I would definitely wanted to use colors that absolutely show the contrast. I have used this to create leaves, and Now, I'm not sure on black how that's going to look. A little bit of...
While you're painting, Sabrina has joined us from Italy.
Wow. Hello, Sabrina from Italy. Just going to add a little bit of color in there. Now, you're not going to get precise outlines with this, but you can go in and kind of crisp it up. And I really like the look of a loose style. See how that kind of evolves? And after this dries, I can go back and add some shading and highlighting. And I have some different things that I wanted to share with you that I have done using the palette knife. This is like my secret weapon. When I'm not sure what to do to something to jazz it up, I'm going to hold this up a little bit. Can you see on here just that little bit of sparkle on the pumpkins? To me, that's what really, really sets this off. The shading and the highlighting is really nice, but look at just that little bit of sparkle. And all I did was take my palette knife and just kind of drag it down each one of these little curves. And you don't have to do much to make a big difference. Let's see if I can put these somewhere here. I did get some water, but I don't really think I need it today. I did this truck, and I wanted it to look rusty. Check this out. All I did was take some burnt sienna and just kind of scrape it here and there, everywhere, just to give that rust texture. And I think this is so cool. I put it on the bumper. And again, this would be a little bit of a challenge with a brush. And I think that this element adds the characteristic of the piece. This just really, there's no doubt this is an old rusty truck. And it's because of this rust effect. And it was super easy to do, honest to goodness. All I did was get a little bit on my palette knife here, a little bit here, a little bit here. Reload often, put some here, toe of my knife, just a little bit there. You can see how easily it builds up, and you're just going to sit there and go, wow, this is so cool. It is just unbelievable what a great effect that creates. I'll put my water up here. This is a piece that I did almost completely with a palette knife. And on the nest, that's where I use the straight edge to create that nesty look. The leaves, you can see the shape of the palette knife. I think for this, I did use heavier coverage, so I did go with the metal palette knife. And you can see that, let's go down here. You can see that's just about the shape of the leaf. And by adding the different colors, I have just the plain raw sienna leaves. I did some of the, what color is that, Lindsay? It's that olive green that came out last year. Lush green? No, that's the new one. It's not laurel.
You asked me too fast.
Okay. I love this olivey green. And it looks super good with the aqua sky. Adding in some of those colors in the nest, all of the colors, just building it up. I did.
I think it is lush green.
Is it lush green? Kind of an olive green?
Yeah.
Okay. I did scrape highlights on the eggs. I kind of kept that theme going. I could have went in and dry brushed them, but dry brushing is a little more controlled. And with this, it was so loose. I had so much fun with this. This one it was published in the Pixelated Palette, and we do have a pattern on that now. But this is a great practice piece. And even if you don't get the pattern, just play around with the palette knife. See if you can create these kind of effects. And I did go in the background and just drop like on the corners, that little bit of scraping just to add that distress look.
Brenda's asking, were the leaves done with multiple colors at once or layered with the palette knife?
I did layers with the palette knife. If you put multiple colors on and you scrape it, it may work. But then again, you may get, sometimes when you get colors on there and you do this, you get a little bit of a mud mixture. So I just went in with the green, and I put the green here and there, went back with brown and added some more, the raw sienna, and then went back with the aqua sky. There's not a lot of colors in here. And I thought that was fun too, because I could create such depth and kind of drama with just using a palette knife. Very artsy and very free flowing. Sometimes I want to create that look of wood grain. This is excellent to scrape across to create wood grain. I did the cart, and then I also did a birdhouse. And if you look at this, maybe I'll put them side by side. If you look at the birdhouse, you can see where the palette knife is a little bit heavier in paint. So here's the deal. If you put it on, it's too heavy and solid. If you let it dry, you can go put a darker color over top of it to, kind of subdue it a little bit and create more of a texture. This was created with layers, and I believe this is a video on my YouTube channel, the Chickadee Birdhouse.
Should be, maybe.
So you can watch and see up here on the roof, I created the wood grain. A little bit down here, I just more or less thought that was a little sparkle of highlight. So all of this texture was super easy to create, just kept the palette knife in the direction of the wood grain, and it just is amazing what results it creates. On this one, I did the wood grain, but then also I wanted I'm going to get this on something here. I wanted to, how white is. Sometimes the white just isn't as bright. I wanted this to be super snowy. So I went back with the palette knife and I added highlights on my snow piles just to really ramp it up. I did go down the side edges. I wanted this to be a super frosty, kind of blizzardy, fun snow. And so I just kept adding it until I was satisfied with it. A lot of these in the background I added after I painted it. I took the toe of my knife. You can be a little more specific in where you lay it in. And if you look really close, these are not smooth and even. That would be a float. This is just texture and POW and drama, all kind of created with a little swipe of the palette knife.
Janelle says, I've done many birdhouses with a palette knife since I watched your Chickadee birdhouse video. It makes it look old instantly.
It's amazing. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I'm glad you're enjoying it.
And Lisa says, I love that painting. This is Yuletide cart.
Yes. And when I did this, I thought it was kind of ugly, and that's why I kept throwing on the paint until it became just kind of cozy and Christmassy. And I thought, okay, this is going to work. So never give up. Work with something and you'd be surprised. Sometimes it turns out to be one of the favorites. On this one, I wanted something kind of cabinish, lake-like. Okay, so I painted the frame. I think I painted it blue and it looked horrible. I painted it red, it looked horrible. I painted it white, it looked horrible. So I thought, okay, I painted it brown, it looked horrible. So I went back to white, and then I just added layers. I have a little bit of burnt umber. I have a little bit of the, what's the burnt orange? Heritage brick. And a little bit of blue on there, and it just pulls all the colors. And then after I did the frame, I thought, I'm going to put a little bit on the oar. And of course, I did the dock with that. And it went from okay to like, this is really cool. I did put some on the boat because I wanted it to look a little bit weathered, but not like it wasn't cared for. I put some sparkles on the buoys, a little bit of sparkles across the lake. All those little details, just a little bit of paint makes such a big difference. After I go in and add like on the side of the post to poles. Then I can go in with my paintbrush and I can define and really add the detail that's going to crisp it up and make it just a little more refined, I guess is a good word. This one is another one that, to make it look just a little more aged, I took blue and I just kind of pulled some blue across just to give it that age of like an older egg stand. And I did all the stenciling, did all the painting. I wasn't real thrilled with it. So I went back and just used my palette knife just to add that one more touch that's just going to set it over the edge and just really elevate it to make it very interesting. Such a fun way to add just a little bit of quiet design. I didn't use any palette knife on these little ladies in the center. They're kind of the star of the show and their little babies down here. But that booth, I just needed it to kind of settle in the background, but yet still be interesting. And I think if you look at this and you took away the stenciling and the palette work on it, it would be, I don't want to say boring, but maybe a little bit boring. This is another market cart, and I did this a while back, and I was struggling with the wood grain on the cart. Guess what? I did this rather heavily. I wanted this to be spring-like, summer-like, but the cart was very dark. So by adding that palette knife, and I even, after I did the lettering, I went back and added some over top of the letters. I wasn't real sure that was going to work. So what I did was I used the Deco Art Ultra Matte Varnish, put a nice coat over it, and it will dry the same texture as paint. It has absolutely no sheen at all. This stuff is my best friend. And I put that on there, and once it dries, then I can use my palette knife over top, and it's going to have the same results as what is underneath. If you use a varnish that has a sheen on it, the paint's not going to grab and be as defined and textured as it is if you use the Ultra Matte. This stuff's magic, I'll tell you. I love that. Oh, if you want something to look a little bit distressed, all of this around the edge is done with a palette knife. I love this design. I used it on the pumpkin. I added some texture down there, not on the bird, not on the leaves. If you put it everywhere, it loses its impact. So if you use it here and there, like on the pumpkin, on the background, that's just enough. And on this, I kind of went all over. Most of them I kind of keep to the edges, but I wanted this to be very Halloweenish and dark and have that orange really pop. And I think this worked out really well. And this is another one I did where I just went around the edges, added a little bit. So you don't need to add a lot, just a little bit. And I did add some splattering. The scraping with a palette knife and splattering are really good friends. They get along super well. So, in addition to a little bit of palette knife, if you add a little bit of splattering, that creates a really nice effect as well. And this one is kind of the same way. I thought this turned out well. This is more like a stucco. So I just kind of slap the background in there. It was very plain, very boring. But after I went in and did some palette knife work on it, heavier on the sides, heavier on the top, I thought it looked like vintage stucco. I was really pleased with the way this turned out and the effect of that palette knife. To me, that made the difference. And I did this a couple years ago, but I think now I would probably use a palette knife and add a little bit of highlights on the pumpkins as well. Okay, so I got a little bit crazy, and I decided I wanted to try to paint tulips with a palette knife. And this was kind of a struggle, but I love how it looked. And I just painted maybe like an egg-shaped tulip with pink. And then I just took my palette knife and I added some ruffles at the top, and then I turned it over and I added some darkness at the bottom. And after I did many, many layers, I went back with white just to add the highlight on the tips. I did paint the leaves, but I went in with the palette knife to add the highlights. The distressing on this picture, I think that works out real well. It just kind of keeps the theme going. I added a little bit in the background, but not too much because I didn't want it to become splotchy. So instead of adding a lot of texture in the background, I just went around the edge a little bit. I don't know if you can see the white around the edges. And it just was enough to kind of help frame it in and brighten it up. I did pull some colors of green. I thought, well, maybe the tulips would reflect a little bit on the picture. And so I did, put just a little bit of green and pink in there just to pull that color and to make it a little more coordinated. Along that same line, this was one of my favorites. I used some heavy palette knife work in the background, but look at this watering can. I just love this. This was so very plain. And I went in with my brush and I added some rust spots, but then I just went in with a palette knife and I just pulled a little bit and just added a little bit of texture on it, a little bit down here, and it just really, I love the effect very easily. Again, if I had to do this with a paintbrush, I don't think I could create that same look. Now, I didn't use it anywhere else, just a little bit on the background and a little bit on the watering can. So I let everything else be very painted. And I think the overall effect came out really well. Back to snow. This was another one, and I wanted it super snowy, but after I did it, the snow was too smooth and even. So I went back with my palette knife. I splashed a little bit of yellow on there, the light from the lantern, and a little bit of purple, just because I never used purple before, and I thought it would be fun. The tree trunk, tree stump, I wanted it to be very bark-like. I'm telling you, this makes fantastic bark. So if you're doing a tree, then you want to create the look of bark. This palette knife technique is super easy to do. And don't just use brown, shades of brown. I pulled some blue in here. I've got a little bit of the purple. When you start adding colors, you still want to maintain the central color, your main color, but adding little pops of color in there, oh my goodness, it really will add a lot of interest and create a lot of impact. And then I can go in there with my palette knife and add this in. Then I just go back with my paintbrush and fine tune it. But what you can create with a palette knife is beyond amazing. Just unbelievable. And I've had so much fun with this, and I'm kind of excited because I get to bring my love of fine art into decorative painting and hopefully encourage you to play around. I know these tools are not our typical decorative painting tools, but they open up so many doors to create something that is totally unbelievable. I think playing with this and practicing, you'll be amazed. You'll impress yourself. And I think that's what we love to do when we paint and find a new technique that works really well. And you can say, oh my gosh, that was almost like not working at all. It just kind of evolves magically before your eyes. So I'm going to pop this one back on here because this one has probably the most technique. So we have any questions, Lindsay?
No questions, but some comments.
Oh.
Allison says lovely. Catherine Kerr. I know who you are. It's Mary Jane's sister.
Oh, okay.
Says so pretty. Judy Miro. I always butcher her last name.
Yep.
Her home base is in Oregon, but she's in Lake Havasu, Arizona, enjoying the sunshine right now.
Oh, enjoy it for me, Judy.
Mary Jane's in here.
Hi, Mary Jane.
Marty says that it's so pretty, love it. Joyce is here from Abington, Mass. Suzanne just joined from North Idaho.
Wow, we have people from all over the world, actually. Yeah. So I know that this might be out of your comfort zone, but I really do hope you give it a try. It has, I like to try things that are different, that maybe will put a spin on our decorative painting. And I think if you play with it, you're going to be going, oh my goodness, I didn't know I could do that. And not only on the flat of your palette, but try the edges as well. If you have a metal palette and it's fairly flexible, it will work. If you have those cheap plastic palettes or palette knives that are super flexible, try them both, because what works for me may not work best for you. And I think that we find that. I've taught for many years, and I show how I use it, but then I see different ones paint using their technique or their method, and it works just as well. It's just whatever works best for you.
Pam says, this is so interesting. I have never used a palette knife. Can't wait to try. Thank you.
Okay, so if you do use a palette knife, I would love it if you would share what you do with it, even if it's a practice piece of paper. If you do it on like watercolor paper, you're going to have a lot of texture from paper. So maybe just base coat up a sample piece and play around with it. But see what you can do and share it, because I think you'll be impressed. I'd love to see what you do with it. If you've got a piece you're working on, you want to add a few highlights, try it. And if you're worried about it, use my best friend to base coat or to top coat it.
And it should be said, like, just paint up a bunch of boards. What we do is we just base coated a bunch of boards, and that's what Chris is using. It's just a scrap piece of MDF, and she's just painting on that, and you can practice on that, right?
Yeah, use that. I thought I don't have enough paint on here. It's going to sharpen up my leaf.
Lori says, hi, Chris. Love the techniques, inspiring me to get painting less house cleaning.
Yeah, forget the house cleaning.
Chris was actually cleaning right before the live. Suzanne says, it's always fun to try something new. Darlene says, thank you so much. Great techniques. I know it will make a difference. Karen's joining us from New Hampshire.
New Hampshire. I'm going to try to put a little fine vein in there. And you can see I have very little paint. So, it might take a little bit to get it on there. And don't worry about being perfect. That's not what it's all about. So play around with it. I think you're going to have fun with this, a lot of fun. I can go in there and put some highlights in that leaf. And play around with it, and I'm getting it kind of thick in there. So once you get the hang of it, I think you're going to absolutely love it. So if you've not seen our Cupboard Distributing Create with Chris YouTube channel, you might want to check it out. Be sure to subscribe. If you subscribe, then you won't miss out on upcoming videos. And we've been doing videos just about every week. If it's not live, it's a pre-recorded video. And then Lindsay and Jen are doing semi-pro painting. And that is every Thursday. Except next week, because somebody has to go on a cruise. So.
Sorry, not sorry.
So if you have not signed up for our email, be sure to sign up for our email at Cupboard Distributing. We are having a sale this week on my specialty brushes. They are all, is it 30% off?
Yeah, an additional 30.
Yeah,
it's a steal, and that's on the individual brushes only. That will not apply to the sets. So you'll get a better deal if you order the individual brushes.
Okay, so you don't want to miss out on that, and that goes through Thursday.
Thursday, yes.
We have our, oh, I am so excited. We have our annual or our Christmas Unwrapped subscription that is 4 times a year. And I just finished up the second set, and they are so cute. I think you're going to love them.
But she can't talk about
I
it.
know. They threatened me that I can't talk about them.
So that, can you put the bird's nest one, that one in your hand?
Oh, okay.
This design, someone asked, Allison asked, this one's called Triplets. I put the link for the bundle in there. The bundle comes with the pattern, the background stencil, which the name of it just like postmark script,
yes.
Maybe postmark script, and the surface. And then you would just need either set of palette knives and whatever paints. But yeah, all the instructions are in the pattern packet.
And this is a fun one. And I encourage you, if you want to try this, to just let it create itself. I know you still have to do it, but don't try to make it exactly perfectly like this one. I painted this one a couple times, and each time it comes out, you know how it is. It's just a little bit different, and it's just a fun design to be very loose and very, I call it artsy. And the background stencil is, actually, you could use about anything in the background. It doesn't have to be this particular, but these are the collage stencils. They are really nice. I do like to use those.
Natalie says this looks like it'd be a fun way to add gold to a piece.
Oh, that would.
Yeah. Marty says she is loving the Christmas Unwrapped.
Oh, thank you, Marty. Wait till you see the next one.
I mean, I might be particular or biased, I guess it would be, but this next one, I love it. But it's my favorite anyway, so favorite theme.
So if you know Lindsay, you know what that is.
I don't know if everyone knows that or not, but yeah.
So we have any more questions about the technique? Again, just remember to put a small amount of paint. You don't want, and I think that's the trick. You don't want heavy paint. You just want, let me get, everything has dried here. Okay, you just want to pull that through until it's almost nothing on your palette. A little bit of paint makes a big difference, and shouldn't have done green. And you can use it until it's gone, or you can just get a little bit and put a little bit of detail. Again, do the side, get a straight line. This one's a little bit, I'm going to go with a shorter one for this because I want a little more control. I can kind of clean up that edge, maybe put a little bit of a point on it. So you can see the benefits of having different size palette knives for different things. Don't stick with one and say, oh, I can't do that because it's not working. Well, if you have different tools, actually this one has always been my favorite, but it's a little bit big for smaller areas. So I bumped down to a smaller palette knife. This one's a little more flexible. So if I want to create just a little bit of a pop, I can go with that and create just a small area. So don't be afraid to try different ones. I think most of you probably have a palette knife in your stash, maybe? Yes? No? And then you can try that. I was wondering if you could use a credit card because they're flexible.
You probably could.
I tried that. It doesn't work well.
I mean, the only, like that swiping.
Yeah.
Probably be it,
they're good for scraping paint, but for, a little bit of a manipulation with the palette knife, I would stick with a palette knife because everybody needs 1, 2, or 3, or 4 of them. If you get this one little package, you got everything covered. I think there's 5 different ones in here. 6 different ones.
There's one item back there.
Oh, okay, a smaller one's yeah. So you'd be good with that.
Patty says this adds so much.
It does. Just that little bit of, this was the one I was kind of impressed with when I added just that little bit of sparkle. Oh, and I did an ocean scene that beach view.
Beach view, yeah.
And on the water, you know how the sun sparkles off the water? I just took white and I kind of scraped it across the water and it just looked like little bits of glitter and sparkle. It was really pretty. And it was just enough. Just that little bit is enough.
Carol says she has both the metal and the plastic
You,
ones.
Carol, you've got it, girl. You can just go to town now. Okay.
And she found them at the dollar store.
Oh, dollar store has everything, don't they? Okay, Lindsay, anything else?
This will be available to watch both on our Facebook channel and again the Cupboard Distributing YouTube channel shortly after the broadcast.
You want to flip it?
Yeah. And you can look at the Create with Chris playlist, and all of the past lives will be there on that playlist. And some of the older, and go through the videos. There's quite a lot of informative videos on there. Some of the original early videos that we've done are on there too, and they're really informative as well.
So if you have comments, please let us know. If there's things that you would like to know, how do I do that? Let me know, because that's why we did this today. Someone was asking about the palette knife, how to load it, how to hold it, and how to get different results, what to do with it. And I love to share a technique that creates such an unbelievable difference. And anything that you can do to make your designs and creations look better, if it's not a struggle, I'm all for that. And it shouldn't have to be a struggle. I think that painting should be fun and relaxing and should be an exciting time. And when we can create something that creates such amazing results so easily, I get super excited about that. And I really hope you give it a try. If you do, please share what you do. I'd love to see it. We don't get to see the finished pieces too often, but make sure you tag me in it so I can see what you're doing. If you have questions, let me know. And again, this will be on my YouTube channel, Create with Chris. And if you can't remember that, Cupboard Distributing, you plug that in, it'll take you right to the channel. Subscribe, you'll get all of the updates, or you'll get notices when we have new videos coming out, which is about twice a week.
Usually,
Yeah. Sign up for our newsletter on Cupboard Distributing. You won't miss out on our sales. We have great sales. And be sure to check out Christmas Unwrapped, because it's such a fun, it's a brand new program that we designed this year. And it's really adorable. So I think you'll be super pleased with that. Anything else?
No.
Okay, well, thank you for joining me today, and Lindsay. And remember, a little bit of paint makes a big difference. We look forward to seeing you on our next painting adventure. Bye-bye.